Hello you guys and welcome back on my channel. Today we're finally going to talk about my assumptions and theories about what season 2 of Heartstopper might be about. Some of them aren't really revolutionary in any way, I'm just going to go based off the comics, but I have some ideas of my own, especially for the new characters. First off, let's start with the easiest, Charlie and Nick. I'm going to talk about them at the same time because their storylines are going to be linked again, obviously. But let's start with Nick. His journey in the show was somewhat different from his journey in the comics, and I don't know where they're gonna stop exactly, but we're definitely getting the Paris trip. It was implied by many cast members, Yas for example, and the photo Alice posted where they were showing us that they were working on the script for season 2. They had the volume 3, which is the Paris trip one. I'm actually wondering if they're really going to go to Paris or if they're just going to use studio for that. It is something that could easily be recreated on set, so I'm wondering about that. But yeah, we're going to have a Paris trip. In terms of Nick's storyline, we're going to see him getting more and more comfortable in his identity, maybe discovering little aspects of himself and realizing that he had a crush on perhaps like other actors. You know how throughout the comics and the special stories you get those little snippets of Nick realizing that he was crushing, for example, on David Tennant when he was younger and anyone with dimples just like Charlie. I think it could be a nice addition because it's a very real part of the queer experience. As soon as you figure out who you are, whether you have a label or not, whenever you understood that you're queer in some way, it's always fun to go back to memory lane. So I think it could be interesting to see that. I would love to see more of Olivia Colman, obviously. I'm hoping for a meet the parents scenes. They were barely there, all the parents in season 1, and to be fair, they're not really there that much in the comics either, but it would be so fun and adorable to see Charlie being all, you know, like blushy, and I just thought I would mean so much to him to be introduced to the mom of the guy he's dating, like his boyfriend. I think that in terms of his character, Nick still, I'm sure we get some closure with some of the guys in his group friend, because it does happen in the comics as well. Otis, Sai, and the other guy, I can't remember his name right now. I think it could be nice to see more of their friendship, because it wouldn't be fair for Nick to lose all of his friends, and I feel like in terms of the message it would send, it would be better if Nick isn't the only good guy, you know what I mean? Like, give a second chance to the others as well. And I've already touched on this in other videos, but I would love to see his friendship with Imogen develop even more, and obviously his friendship with the other members of the Paris squad. As for Charlie, we're not in for a fun ride, that I can tell you. I'm hoping we'll get some more cute moments of him and Nick and him and the rest of his friends. They're going to keep on going the route of the mental health journey. We've seen bits of it in season 1, it was implied, and for the people who read the comics, it was clear as day that he was already starting to show some symptoms. I don't know if you can exactly call them symptoms, but at least behavior of having trouble with food. What I always liked in the comics is that even though Nick makes him tremendously happy, it's a bumpy road, like there are highs and there are lows, and people are trying to be there for him and to love him and to show how much they care, but sometimes their love isn't enough, and that's totally okay. There's nothing they can do besides being there for him. And I like that Alice really made it super clear that love can cure a mental illness. I think that's a direct quote from Heartstopper actually, so I would love to see more of that. Even if the second Charlie faints in Nick's arm, I'm gonna cry. Besides that, perhaps we'll get some closure of him and Harry, because a scene similar to some kind of redemption arc was in the comics during the Paris trip, and I actually love that scene because Charlie was being all sassy and smart and just, yes, get it, my guy. And I think it will also be a great message to send, like, you're doing the bare minimum, apologizing months from now and not even caring that much. Really, you can do better. For Tara and Darcy, I have many thoughts about this. If we take season 1, for example, they had a plotline that did not even exist in the comics. And that was great because it showcased a really important part of what it's like to come out as a lesbian and the challenges we face, because they're not the same as gay guys or bisexual guys or any other sexualities. And since season 1 seemed to be a bit more centered on Tara out of the two of them, I think it would be great if it was more centered on Darcy this time around. We know that she has a really complicated relationship with her parents in the comics. They fight all the time, and even if she's not out to them, I'm guessing they would react badly. So either Heartstopper is going to stay this really uplifting and hopeful show, and they're not going to dive really deep into those issues. I would love to see her hang out at Tara's place a lot, and just us knowing that her parents are, you know, getting into fights and that it's affecting her. And I think it would be great because it would give her more personality, because I love her character, but I feel like in season 1 she was kind of two-dimensional. There were moments at times when you could feel and see that there was something more to her personality than her just being bubbly and having her nose in everyone's business, but you don't see it enough, I feel. And oftentimes the people who are the loudest, the brightest, and who just love to make people laugh, they do it because inside, I don't want to say they're suffering, but it's because it brings them something, you know, to make other people happy. So I feel like it could be interesting for her if we were to see more of that. I touched on this in my other video when I was talking about the unpopular opinion surrounding Heartstopper. If Alice and the rest of the writers and Kizzy themselves want to make a storyline where Darcy comes out as non-binary or starts questioning whether or not she's comfortable using she, her, or would prefer using they, them, or any other pronouns, I think that could also be interesting, because we have the character of Elle, who he's the T in the LGBT, right? But it could be interesting to see on screen gender expression being not questioned, but like discussed, and show the process behind all of it, because I feel like we have a lot of representation when it comes to sexual identity, but not so much when it comes to gender expression. And Kizzy being non-binary themselves, it would be a very good opportunity to just slide that in and having it being well done.
Well, me and Alice did talk about the possibility, because I'm non-binary, of Darcy being non-binary in the next season. And Alice was really, really sweet. She was like, whatever you want to do with your body, with your hair, if you want to, you know, like take any hormones or anything, we'll work with it. Like, Alice was like, would never stop you. So I think that depends on what I do with myself. And I think, yeah, when Alice suggested that, I was like, might be a bit too soon, might be a bit too personal. If Darcy had a non-binary storyline, I think I'd be like, I've got to figure it out myself before Darcy does. Although in some ways I suppose it might be a bit cathartic.
As for Tara, I don't really have any idea of what kind of storyline she could have. Perhaps she'll get more comfortable in her identity as well, and perhaps we'll get to see more of her friendship with Nick. In terms of story, they kind of are at the same point, because Darcy was out, Charlie was out, and both of them, Tara and Nick, I mean, I'm assuming Nick will eventually come out to everyone in season 2. When I say that, I don't mean in an over-the-top fashion way, not like in Love Victor, where he just pulled that chair out of nowhere, honestly, and just told everyone he was with Benji. But I'm guessing more people will know what goes to run fast, even faster when it comes to relationships and tea and stuff like that. So I can see him being fully out by the end of season 2. And that makes his journey and Tara's journey kind of similar. And they're already friends and they already have history, so it could be cool if they wanted to show more of their friendship and how they can relate and help each other, because one part that is really important in queer storylines is showing how the community is there for each other, how it's really about feeling supported and finding people you can relate to and not going through all of that alone. I think that's a really big part of what being queer is. If I go from my own experience, I know that I knew I was queer by age 14, 15, but nobody around me was queer in any way. So when I heard that one guy in another class who was friend with a friend of one of my friend was gay, you can bet your ass I pulled my best Darcy and went to talk to him and was like, hey, so I'm gay too, wanna be friends? I swear, I really did that, and it worked out because we were friends for at least 5 years after that. If I hadn't had him and that other guy later in life who was also gay, I would have felt really, really alone. Even though I was surrounded by the most understanding and nice friends ever, they were still cis and straight at the time, because today one of them, the friend I was the closest to actually, she's bi now, so yeah. It's just so funny how queer people just orbitate around each other without even knowing it. Anyway, that's enough about me. Now we know that Alice has big asexual plans, and I couldn't be more happy because as an ace sapphic, I am still waiting to see a good and healthy and just feel good ace representation. I know we have a couple of them in media, like sparse of them, but they're never enough, at least not for the ace community. And whether it's with Tori, and I would love it if it was with Tori because it would mean that we get to see more of her and I need her in my life. I also need scenes of her and Nick. Please, please, please make that happen in season 2. I am begging. That made me think. I totally forgot about that, but I'm guessing we'll get to see Nick's brother in season 2, maybe? Going back on track. Like I said, whether it's with Tori or with Isaac, I'm just down for that, and I have a theory for Isaac. I think that what they could do with him, since he was coded as Arrow Ace and Alice later confirmed that he was intended to be Arrow Ace, I think it could be cool if they could emulate some of the storyline of Georgia in Loveless, having perhaps Elle and Tao getting together by maybe, I don't know, episode 3 or 4, and then having the dynamic of the friend group change radically because most of them are going to be dating each other at this point, and with everything that happened in season 1 and with how caring and empathetic Charlie is, I would see him being freaked out by this and being scared that they're leaving Isaac behind and not wanting Isaac to feel like he doesn't belong in the friend group anymore. And I think it could be cool if they went with the storyline of Charlie trying desperately to find someone for Isaac to date, but not realizing that Isaac doesn't want to date anyone. It just doesn't. And I don't know if I want Isaac to know this about himself already, or like Georgia in Loveless, figuring out as he goes. I think both could be cool because it could showcase how, even though you could have the best intentions, being in a relationship isn't the answer to everything, and it's certainly not the answer to happiness. And it could be nice to showcase that even friends and even queer people can make mistakes. And I think it could be cool because it's something that easily happens in life every day. Like, you don't mean it to happen, but you're going to have assumptions about other, and evolving in a society and in a world where romantic relationships are oftentimes still put above friendship, for example. I could see, like I said, yeah, Charlie and the others trying to help and wanting to help, but not understanding that Isaac doesn't need help. The only thing they need to do here is just find ground rules about the dynamic of their new group, and if they are going to be 3 couples, just make an extra effort and try to include the people who are single still, you know? Like, it's just communication again. And since I talked about Isaac, as for Imogen, like I said in, again, my other video where I was talking about the unpopular opinion surrounding Heartstopper, I personally don't want to see her having a queer storyline of any sort. I just want her to be a good friend, to be a good person, and I want to see more about her relationship with Nick. I perhaps want to see her leave the toxic male group behind. I think you could tell a really interesting story about how it's hard as a girl to fit in a primarily male group and the dynamics said group has, and how toxic it can be, how there is a power grab, how as a girl you always have to prove you belong there and you deserve, quote unquote, to hang out with them, because that's something I know I personally struggled with a lot when I was younger. Surprise, I'm queer and I used to hang out with guys only. That's not true. I was a real chameleon. I would just go from group to group. But that's beside the point. As great as Heartstopper is, it can also tell stories that aren't linked to queerness. You know, like I feel like it has the space to tell more. I would also love to see her relationship with other members of the Paris squad. And you know what? Since Toby and Rhea seem to be really good friends, it could be kind of sweet if they could bring that to life on screen, because technically they're both new characters, so there are no rules. If they just become friends in season 2, it could be so great. And going back on my wish to see Georgia's storyline being emulated in Heartstopper with Isaac, I think it would be amazing if there is a scene where Imogen is the one saying the speech, the love speech Rooney gives Georgia by the end of Loveless. Because this scene, when I read the book, just made me cry. It reminded me so much of the relationship I have with my best friend. And love confessions can also be great and beautiful, even in friendship. And I could see Rhea and Imogen say that. I could see them say those words. And it could be so sweet. Like, can you imagine it? Can you picture it? Oh, I just need it. Now we're gonna end with my second favorite couple, Tao and Elle. Obviously, they're going to be pinning, and they're going to be shyness and awkwardness. And I'm just so here for this. I need it so bad. I think it's interesting to notice that they flipped the storyline a bit, because in the comics it was Tao was hiding his feelings for Elle because for once he didn't think he was good enough for her, and two, he felt like Elle had enough changes in her life lately and he didn't want to push his feelings for her on her, which I thought was adorable. In the TV show it's probably going to be different though, because they switched it. Like, Elle is the one being really careful about her feelings for Tao, probably because she saw how scared of change Tao was and she doesn't want to impose on him, which I understand perfectly. I'm wondering if they're going to show us that perhaps she's the one who doesn't think that Tao could ever see her in another light than his best friend, I mean. I just know there is going to be so much pinning and it's going to be funny as hell. As for the individual storyline, I think it could be a good opportunity to showcase more of Tao's own life and why exactly was he so scared of being left alone. I have seen other people talk about this, and it probably has to do with the fact that he's the only Asian person in the group and his father seems to be out of the picture, so I think there is a story there and it could be cool if they could tell it. For Elle, well, I don't know, because she doesn't really have that much of a storyline in the comics either. I just want to know more about her. I want to see more of her friendship with Tao and Darcy. I want to see more of her developing relationship with Tao. I want to see more of her friendship with Isaac and Charlie. I feel we didn't get as much Charlie, Elle, Isaac content as we should have in season 1, and that's a crime. Please repair it. Other than that, I don't really have thoughts about what Elle's storyline could be. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, you can leave thumbs up. You can also give your opinion in the comments. I'm really curious to know what you think about my theories. If you have theories of your own, perhaps you thought about something that didn't even breach my mind. If you want to keep updated every time I post a video, you can subscribe to this channel. You can also follow me on Twitter. If you want to freak out and fangirl about Heartstopper, Royals, anything gay really. And yeah, I hope you have a nice summer and see you next time. Bye!